think that this is the responsibility, again, unfortunately, of Hamas, who made huge miscalculation, a strategic miscalculation for itself, for its people, and also for the region at large. So now they have to pay the price, and they're going to pay the price.
Israel's military has warned people still in Gaza City that it will be moving into the next stages of the war, and that those people should be moving south. There's a ground invasion still on the cards, so we'll be discussing more on that
with Dr. Meir Elran, who joins us now. He is currently a researcher at Israel's Institute for National Security Studies and was formerly a senior member of the Israeli Defense Forces, including time as Deputy Director of Military Intelligence. Dr. Elran, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Can I ask you where you think the situation is regarding the next phase, the ground offensive? Is it a matter of hours or just a few days away, or is, bearing in mind the calls from America and from the UK and other countries for restraint, is a certain amount of rethinking going on in the Israeli, at the head of the Israeli government?
Well, I think that basically this is not time for Israel to be restrained. This is time for Israel to go for the offensive. What happened 2 weeks ago and one day on the Shabbat and holiday is so atrocious and so very significant, not only for Israel, for the world at large, that Israel does not have any other option but to crush Hamas in the sense that it will be eliminated as a military and a political power from the earth. And this is really what's going to happen very soon. Unfortunately, it has different kind of consequences. But if we do not take care of this problem, this malignant problem that is presented by Hamas, not only to Israel, but as I said before, to the world at large, or at least to the Western liberal world, this is going to be very bad, not only for us, but for the region in the Middle East and for the world at large. So that's, I think, what has to be done. And I'm certain that this is what's going to happen in the coming future.
But the question is whether it can be done without seeming to punish ordinary Palestinians and cause a great deal of civilian casualties, which, I put it to you, is likely to alienate global public opinion.
Well, let me put it this way. Israel is not in the business of punishing people or bringing any kind of plight or a predicament to any civilian population. That's why Israel has been warning the Palestinians in Gaza for the last 10 days continuously to go down from the center of Gaza to the southern part, which means that there they will be safe. But all those who are going to stay are considered, as far as Israel is concerned, to be part of the Hamas association, or the Hamas or the supporters, or some Hamas troops.
Yeah, but the issue
is going to be a very...
The issue is that those people who have moved to the south are bottled up without resources, without supplies of water, without supplies of electricity as a result of decisions of Israel. And you say they're going to be safe. We know they're not safe. We know that there have been strikes in that area as well. So again, I appreciate your intention, Israel's intention in terms of wanting to deal with Hamas. But the problem is, are the consequences for Palestinian civilians going to be unacceptable to world opinion?
Well, first of all, this has been and still is the responsibility of Hamas. They have been governing.
Well, the electricity and the water is not the responsibility of Hamas.
Of course it is. Everything is in the responsibility of Hamas. Everything.
Well, they didn't cut it off. The Israeli government did.
Listen, what I'm suggesting for you to understand, please, is that right now we are going to get into a situation in which Hamas is going to disappear from the world. This is the issue. Now, the humanitarian issue is very, very significant. We are not disregarding that. We understand that there is a problem. That's why we have limited our zone of operations in a way that the Palestinians, Hamas if possible, but they are not going to do that because they are preventing their people from going down south to the safe perimeter. And then also the Arab world, United Nations, everybody who is willing to help the Palestinians. I think that this is a great idea. But this is not the responsibility of Israel, and this is not in our highest priority right now. We understand the consequences. We understand we're talking about human beings. We understand that this is a very important issue also for Israel. But now I think that this is the responsibility, again, unfortunately, of Hamas, who made huge miscalculation, a strategic miscalculation for itself, for its people, and also for the region at large. So now they have to pay the price, and they're going to pay the price.
There is
and
also,
the humanitarian issue has been.
Yeah, there is also a risk. There is also a risk of a political miscalculation by Israel, isn't there? And that's something that Joe Biden has alluded to by saying Israel needs to take a breath. Rishi Sunak obviously showing his support for Israel's right to defend herself, but also pointing very clearly to the importance of abiding by international law. You clearly want this to be a decisive conflict, not just a retaliation, not just a recovery of the hostages who have been taken. But there is clearly there's clearly international anxiety about the extent of that conflict in terms of the impact on the Palestinian people, but also in terms of a wider and lengthy regional conflict. Do you appreciate that?
I appreciate it totally, and I agree with the British Prime Minister and with President of the United States and with other Western leaders that we have to look at the overall situation in the Middle East, and we do that. And the idea is that the obstruction for any kind of a settlement in the Middle East, which will bring peace and stability to the region and also to the Palestinian people, is the Hamas organization and military machinery. And that's what we are going to eliminate. This disruption, this obstacle has to be eliminated. It has a price. It will be pricey for Israel. It will be costly for the Palestinians, but it has to be done. And we have to do it now. Unfortunately, we didn't want that to happen. We didn't plan that, okay? It came upon us in a very, very barbaric manner. And this is the time for us not to retaliate, but to reconstruct the structure of the Middle East. And that's what we're going to do. We are doing away with the obstructive obstacles. That's what we are doing right now. And I hope that we are successful in that. And thank goodness we're not alone in that. The Western world at large and the American people and the American president and the military might of the Western world is with us on that. It will be costly, unfortunately, but there is no way to do that. To undo this kind of barbaric evil, of course, it will be costly. I'm sorry about that, but people have to understand that this has been a great miscalculation. I would say even a stupidity.
Well, I understand that there is a counter argument which said strategically it's exactly what Hamas wanted to do, which was to provoke Israel into a response which would curdle international opinion about Israel. But let's put that to one side. Let's just assume that the operation succeeds as you would like, that Hamas is eliminated. What happens then? What is Israel's approach towards Gaza after that? Clearly, there's going to need to be a great deal of reconstruction because of the military operation and the bombings. But there are reports in the Financial Times yesterday, for example, that Israel just plans on, quotes, cutting off Gaza, effectively building a massive wall that cannot be breached with a buffer zone around it and ceasing to have any contact with what's going on in Gaza. Is that the intention of Israel if it succeeds in this military offensive?
Well, first of all, let's make this operation successful. That's our number one
No, I accept
consideration right
that.
now. And following that, I hope very much that we're going to reconstruct the Gaza Strip peacefully with responsible leaders, okay, together with the Palestinian people who have a responsible leadership in the West Bank. And if we can do that together with the Arab countries, together with our friends in the Arab world, and together with the Saudis, and together with the Western world and the United Nations, it can be done. A reconstruction, a rehabilitation, not only of the physical damage that Hamas has inflicted upon the Gaza Strip, but also in terms of stability, arrangements, political settings that will be new, will be different. And let me tell you very, very frankly what I think. No more walls. The walls will not stop any terrorist. Okay, what we need is a new construct of a political arrangement that will be between us and the Palestinians. Hopefully sometime it will be also more than just arrangements, as was the case back 50 years ago with the Egyptians. Okay, nobody have been thinking 50 years ago that we will have 40 years of peace with Egypt and with Jordan. It can be done, and it will be done.
Would that
We have
mean returning to the idea of a two-state solution, which we know Prime Minister Netanyahu has pretty much discarded during his period in power, and the idea of Israel endorsing the establishment of a peaceful Palestinian state, which presumably would include Gaza and the West Bank, and that would probably mean withdrawal of some of the Israeli settlements?
Let me be very honest with you, sir. Right now, I'm not really bothered by these issues, which are very, very important, very crucial for the future of the Middle East and the future of the state of Israel.
I appreciate
Okay?
that, but I would appreciate
But
giving your experience some thoughts
right,
on that.
Okay, yeah. Well, my thoughts are that we will have to come into terms with the Palestinian people, with those who are willing to live in peace with us in the Middle East, side by side. Okay, those who are willing to do that will get our blessing and our support. But those who are fighting against us in a barbaric, treacherous, horrendous way, as was the case 2 weeks ago, we are not going to give them any kind of satisfaction in this respect. They are going to be eliminated. There is a consensus in Israel about that. Everybody understands the severity of the situation. Everybody understands the different considerations, and everybody understands this international situation. We understand all of that, and we appreciate the support of the international community. This is very important for us. So we have to do it in a manner that will cause as little damage as possible in order to reconstruct the Middle East. We have to eliminate the evil forces. And by the way, Hamas is not the only one here. Okay, but first we have to deal with Hamas. We will deal with them successfully in a military manner, but then we will have to reconstruct together with our Arab friends and allies and others. We will have to reconstruct the whole region for the stability and peace and reconstruction of the state of Israel as well.